Welcome to Annapolis Mosaics. Our program spotlights people in our community who are involved in activities designed to promote good human relations. I am Michael Keller, the chair of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission and your host. The commission is a city board that seeks to promote equal opportunity and to eliminate discrimination. My guests today are Lisa Vernon, who is the director of the Anne Arundel County Literacy Council, and Maggie Coleman, who serves as a tutor at the council. Lisa and Maggie, welcome to Annapolis Mosaics.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's an honor and a privilege.
Well, thank you for coming and having an opportunity to talk about your excellent program. Well, let's start right there. Can you tell our viewers about the Literacy Council? What does it do? What is its mission? How, when, and where did it get started?
Well, we actually started 35 years ago.
Okay.
And since that time, we have trained literally thousands of volunteers to be tutors, literacy tutors. But what we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We are dedicated to providing free, individualized, one-on-one literacy instruction for adults and out-of-school youth in Anne Arundel County. And we provide both basic literacy and ESL instruction.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How does the council find and assess its customers or clients? These are the people who you help with literacy.
As far as like the tutors and the students?
No,
both?
just the students.
Okay,
Let's look at students. Where do you find them? Where do they come from? And how do you assess them to determine their ability levels?
All right. The students come from all over the county. Anyone in Anne Arundel County is eligible. And we work through Head Start. We've got this year, every Head Start family had one of our bookmarks, and they promoted us through that. We, through various churches, different government organizations, we try to be creative just to get the word out. Mm-hmm. And because one thing about, our students is that when you aren't able to read, that's a shameful thing. Yeah. And so you have to be creative about getting the word out, and a lot of it is word of mouth. Mm-hmm. So, but then once we have a student calls us, and we arrange for an assessment, and we have an assessor that meets with them and finds out exactly where they're at. Mm-hmm. Because we want to start them, we want to know how much they already know and start them right at that level.
Mm-hmm. It's my understanding that your clients, your customers, your students fall into sort of two broad categories. First are individuals who are not yet functionally literate. Mm-hmm. At all, and simply can't read or write at a level that we would normally consider to qualify for literacy. And then you have individuals who are not functionally literate in the English language. Is that correct?
That's true.
And so my question would be how do you tailor your instruction to those two different classifications of people? I would presume that it's different. I would presume that there's a sort of a difference in terms of your approach. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Maggie has taught very different students, and she will be, as our expert on this. But I will say that what we do is we match the tutors and students. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we look at the needs of the student, mm-hmm. and we look at our tutors and their interest, and if their interest is in basic literacy, we match them with a basic literacy mm-hmm. student. If they have previous ESL training, or they're interested in that, we mm-hmm. match them. But Maggie has had very interesting experiences with her students. So
okay,
the training is not as different as you might think.
Okay.
The Lauback method was developed for people who were illiterate in English as English speakers, And then the ESL element was added on top of that.
Okay.
Because the fundamentals were already there, and they're good, and they have to do with pronunciation, recognition of sounds, starting with consonants and then adding vowels. And that's true for everybody, no matter where they're coming from.
Yeah, and your instruction is individualized, is it not?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
can you tell us how that works?
Well, we meet, I meet with one student at a time. We meet at the library, and we have a small table at the back of the library where nobody objects to the noise we make. And my student feels comfortable with other people around, and that's not a problem. I have a friend who also tutors at the Severna Park Library who is tutoring an English speaker who's illiterate. And he's self-conscious, and she gets a conference room for tutoring him so that people won't see him. And
So you basically meet in different places in terms of holding the instruction.
We meet at this is one, really there's some wonderful things about our program. First of all, it's free. There's no cost for the student, and so there's no financial burden. Then it is convenient because we meet at their local library at convenient times for both the student and the tutor, which is great. And then it is individualized, and not only do we assess them for their reading level, but we also tailor the lessons around their individual goals, their interests. So whether they want to work towards their GED, if they want to, say, get a better job, get a driver's license, whatever that interest is, we work to help them achieve that. So it is very individualized with their, which makes it effective because it's very motivating for the student.
How often do you hold the sessions? I mean, how many sessions is there a specific number that you offer, or is it as long as the student needs the assistance, or?
I believe in at least twice a week for language acquisition. If I could do it 3 times and my student could, that would be even better, but 2 is fine. We meet for an hour and 15 minutes because I think that's just about long enough. It's hard work for them. I met someone the other day who meets once a week for 3 hours. I was shocked, but it works for them, that's fine.
The Literacy Council depends entirely on volunteer tutors.
Yes,
this, of course, is a completely volunteer program. How many tutors do you actually have in the program currently, and where do you get them from?
We have 120 active tutor-student pairs right now, and you know it's incredible. I am so proud of our volunteers. They continually amaze and humble me because the quantity and quality that they seek us out, which is incredible, and they come from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds. We do have a lot of educators, like with Maggie, but we have them of all different backgrounds, but what they have in common is they're passionate readers, they are givers, they want to give back to their community, and they're lifelong learners. So what's so incredible about this is that not only are they helping a person to read and write, but they're helping them with life skills, they're mentoring them. It's an amazing experience for both the tutor and student.
I presume that you provide training for the for your tutors. People are not just sort of thrown into this cold turkey, as they say. This is something that you actually.
I should tell you my story of how I got.
Well, we're gonna get to that. I think, Maggie. What I'd like to get a sense of is what kind of training do you provide to the tutors? What's your training program?
We have a 12-hour training divided over 2 Saturdays. And that's the initial training. It covers both basic literacy and ESL instruction. And then we have, which is just as important, we have ongoing training and support. We have what we call follow-on sessions. We have the first one 3 to 6 weeks after their first training. And what that does is now they have a real student, they have real questions. And we have a team of experienced tutors that are there to answer their questions, provide resources, tips. Maggie is actually one of our trainers. I'll say briefly, I'll let her tell you about this, but we have 3 ESL and 3 basic literacy instructors. So Maggie is one of our ESL instructors.
Okay. All right. And what do you do as an instructor? Let's talk from that standpoint.
Oh my goodness, I fell into that backwards, the way I seem to do everything. Simply that I've been doing it for a while, and therefore I was approached to help people walk through it because I've had the experience. And I got the experience because I tried to help somebody and I didn't know what I was doing. And I realized I didn't know what I was doing and said there's got to be a way to do this. And I looked up and found the Literacy Council and said I need to be trained to do this, and they trained me.
That was 7 years ago. She's been tutoring for 7 years. So that's a long time. And she's actually tutored 3 Vietnamese women that I know of. Has there been more than that? Or
No, just the 3. You've met the last 2. The first one moved to California.
Yeah.
And I just went to get my nails done at the nail salon, and the woman who was doing my nails said, I'm having an awful hard time with my reading English. And so then I tried to help her, and oh dear. And there we are.
Well, you know, I'm sure that there's going to be viewers of our show today who are going to say, well, you know, that's something that I may be able to do. But then they're going to say in their minds, do I have the skills, do I have the attributes to be a successful tutor? What would you say to them? What are the characteristics that would identify a person as being a likely success at this kind of endeavor?
Well, one thing I did want to say on this is that we use the Laubach methodology. And
Tell us about that, what that is.
Dr. Laubach, his teachings and materials have been in existence for over 50 years. They've been used successfully around the globe. And what's so grassroots about this and what's so wonderful is that his premise is basically each one, teach one, meaning that with minimal training and the use of his materials, that anyone who knows how to read can teach another person to read. And it's true that, I mean, our tutors are so diverse. They're all interesting people. They come from all different backgrounds. We do have a lot of educators, but we have very successful tutors that are not educators. But with his methodology and his teachings, it's very easy, you know, very straightforward. But Maggie had been doing this for 7 years. So.
Is it, how many, or what kind of longevity do most of the tutors have? Obviously 7 years is quite a long time. Do others participate for that extended period of time, or what's the average?
Yes, they do. That's one thing that we work very hard for. We want matches, good matches. So we work hard for that initial match, and then we follow up because sometimes there's a personality difference, and that's perfectly understandable, and we want to find a good personality match. And so we try to hear from both the tutor and the student. And for the tutor, I think what's really critical is that ongoing support, so that they are encouraged, and if they hit a roadblock, that they have someone there to help them through it. But we have tutors who have been tutoring the same student. Well, one person has become a lifelong friend. They've been together now 10 years. But we have quite a few tutors who've been doing this with the same student for several years.
We're going to take a break now, but when we return, I'll be asking Maggie to relate some of the specific experiences and stories that she's had as a tutor, and also speaking more with Lisa about what motivated her to devote what is basically a life of full-time volunteer work for this enterprise.
Hi, my name is Curry McKinney. I host a show called Reaching Out. Reaching Out deals with issues and concerns that affect the everyday citizens of Annapolis. We would like for you to call us or send us some information that you think is important for other residents to hear. Please call us at 410-280-1462 or email me at kjmckinney@annapolis.gov. Again, my phone number is 410-280-1462 or my email address is kjmckinney@annapolis.gov. Please get involved. It is important. Thank you.
We're talking today with Lisa Vernon, who is the director of the Anne Arundel County Literacy Council, and with Maggie Coleman, who is a tutor at the council. Maggie, could you share with our viewers why you decided to become a tutor?
Well, it goes all the way back to a conviction that communication skills are desperately important to everybody. That's why I once taught in women's prison. That was part of the story. But why did I become a tutor? By accident. Because there was a Vietnamese woman who was doing my nails and said, I have trouble with my reading, can you help me? And I tried, and that's how I wound up with the Literacy Council, because I didn't know how. I thought, being an English teacher by trade, that I would know how to do that. I hadn't a clue. It was totally different. So I've been doing it ever since, and it is probably the most rewarding single thing I've ever done in my life, and I've done an awful lot of different things.
Could you share with our viewers the story about this woman who was doing your nails? Tell us about that in detail. I think they'd love to hear it.
The woman who was doing my nails was simply, she had a book, she had trouble reading it. I thought, for some reason I thought it would be a good idea to go and get Little House on the Prairie. I have no idea why I thought that would be useful, but I went to the library and got it, and I sat down with her, and we got nowhere, absolutely nowhere, and I realized I was approaching it absolutely wrong, and I needed to understand how and why. Now, I have since tutored 3 different people, one of whom relocated, and she made some progress, but then she left. And then I got a young woman who had completed high school in Vietnam and had a very good background, but like anybody who studied language in high school and then tries to turn it into life skills, oops, she really didn't have good command of the English language. There are 2 things that the ESL students really have a problem with, or at least my Vietnamese students, and that is phonics and idioms. One mispronunciation of a vowel can totally do you in. My favorite story about this very bright girl, I discovered she's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. In 2 years' time, she was in community college. She has since graduated from community college. She is now a junior at University of Maryland, going great guns. Wonderful. But she came to me shortly after we had started and wanted to explain to me that she could not come to class the following week because she had to go Kentucky. And I love to tell this story. Everybody always has the same blank look. Kentucky. Huh? What was she trying to say? She said it, and then finally she said, you know, like the fried chicken. Bright girl had figured out that Maryland had the accent on the first syllable. She wanted to say Kentucky, so she put the accent on the first syllable, Kentucky. And then instead of Ken, she said can. Now, that's a very small problem, but totally eliminated any possibility of communication. There you go. I really, really work on phonics with my students. I know not one word of Vietnamese, but I have learned about Vietnamese. And I know that they do not have tenses. Everything's in the present. It works just fine. They do not have articles. They never use a or the, much less distinguish between them. And Vietnamese has practically no consonants. So I have to work very hard to make sure that the endings of words are properly articulated, because otherwise my student tries to say the word find and it comes out fine. And this can make for all kinds of trouble. Mm-hmm. So once I had launched the girl with a good background, and she is off to community college, I got the woman I'm working with now, and she was a very special kind of challenge. Her backstory, and I don't want to use her name, but the backstory is good. Her father worked for the United States back in Vietnam when we were there. And then we left. The new communist government came in, and this was a bad thing for her family, as you can well imagine. And this is why she got no education in Vietnam. So she came here with no education and no English. And when I first met her, she didn't make eye contact, her head was down, she did not speak, and she was the most introverted, mousiest little person you ever want to meet. Well, on Monday, one of the Literacy Council people came to observe our session. And at the end of the session, she talked with us. I couldn't shut up my student. She was like, and now I do this, and now I do that, and here I am, and I'm doing. She was terrific, terrific. She has changed her personality totally. She's outgoing. She talks to everybody all the time. And she practices her English with her customers.
Mm-hmm. What's it like to deal with a student who doesn't speak any English and you don't speak a word of their language? How functionally do
you gotta be a bit of an extrovert. You gotta be willing to do a certain amount of mime, because act it out. I mean, the illustration for the word jump really doesn't show the motion. So I get up and jump so that she sees what it means. You have to do that kind of stuff. And I take, besides the regular materials, I get the Wednesday flyers for the supermarket out of the newspaper, and there's a picture of an apple, and there it says apples. And these are, life skill things. I teach them emergency, fire, the red sign on the door, do not open this door. I make sure they know the words for men and women in bathrooms, important. And I also teach them bad words so they know not to say them. Because sometimes they mix up vowels and out comes a word that's like, oh, you don't want to say that word. I'm going to teach you that word and what it means so you know not to say it. So.
Well, I have known people from other countries who have had wonderful command of English, and specifically a woman I know who comes from Taiwan. Wonderful, wonderful command of English. But you mentioned two things. One thing are the idioms. You're right. The idioms will catch them every time. So we have this. What does that mean? And just phrases. And the other thing is you're right. The pronunciation. Once in speaking with her, I talked about distance. And when I talk about distance with people outside the United States, I try to use it in the metric system because everyone in the world uses the metric system except us. So I talked about it in terms of kilometers. She didn't know what I was trying to say. Finally, the discovery was that she pronounced it kilometers. And just the phrasing change from kilometer to kilometer,
do it.
she didn't understand.
Well, my current student knows how to drive. She went to take the driving test to get her license, and the testing man got in the car and said to her, pull out.
Oh.
She knew the word pull and she knew the word out. She had no idea what he wanted.
Yeah.
we did a lesson this morning was clean up.
Yeah.
The use of the word clean. Up.
Mm-hmm.
Up. Down. Up.
Yeah.
Well, even Laubach has down the road, and she looked at me and pointed down. I said, no, we're not going to dig under here. We're going to go out there, and that's down. Why is that down? It's not. Okay.
Well, Maggie, what do you find to be most rewarding about your work as a tutor? Obviously, just very enthusiastic.
These are, number one, these are motivated people. These are really motivated people, and because they're so motivated, they make enormous progress. And you change somebody's life. That's pretty darn rewarding.
Lisa, and I think this is a good segue into asking you something, and that is, you are a full-time volunteer for the Literacy Council. What motivated you to devote so much time and so much passion to this organization and its work?
Well, I do have a lot of passion, and I think, you know, when I started first as a tutor coordinator, I very quickly saw that what we were doing is real, and it's powerful, it's life-changing, and I was seeing success stories every day, you know, people like Maggie and Rose. So that I got hooked because I wanted to make a positive difference in my community. And, you know, now, I'm putting in 40 to 60 hours a week, and it's all volunteer, but it's very rewarding. And I think that when I look at the passion that I have for the basic literacy student, it stems from the experiences of my daughter, who, the good news is, she graduated with honors from the University of Maryland, College Park, with a degree in English literature. She's a voracious reader and writer, but she had quite a struggle learning to read. And I saw from the perspective of Emily, she knew her phonics backwards and forwards, she had excellent instruction, encouragement, but here she was at the beginning of 3rd grade at a 1st grade reading level. And then it clicked for her, and she advanced a reading level a month until at the end of 3rd grade she was at a 9th grade reading level. But there's something that she said to me at the end of that year. She said, you know, Mom, we're planning our summer birthday party, and she said, there are people who have not seen me since my last birthday. They will not know me because I was dumb and now I'm smart. And what that showed me is that children judge each other. No matter how you try to shield them, they know when they're sort of being left behind and the rest of the class is moving on. And they feel dumb, they are ashamed, and they hide it. And I am very passionate about reaching all of those students, whatever age, and giving them a second chance. So I'm passionate about the ESL students because I spent a year over in Denmark. My husband was on sabbatical at the University of Aarhus in Aarhus, Denmark. And we lived in a little village of 10,000, mainly older Danes who didn't really speak the language, or if they did, they weren't comfortable with it. And my children went to a Danish-speaking school, and I just remember feeling very kind of lonely and isolated and frustrated because I wanted to get to know them, and I wanted to learn their order from their menus. I wanted to read their magazines, their newspapers. I wanted to understand their culture. And I'm a firm believer that anyone that comes to our country and wants to be an American and raise their children here should have the opportunity not only to be able to read, to speak the language, but also learn to read it. Because without those two components, you are really hindered from fully being a part of that culture. And one last thing, I'm passionate about the tutors because I see myself in every tutor. And I know that they are on a life journey, and they're choosing us to volunteer for us, and we're part of that journey. And I want it to be a good one, a good part of their life. So years from now, I want them to look back and say, you know, I volunteered for the Anne Arundel County Literacy Council, and I loved it. I felt like I used my talents and abilities. I felt like I grew as a person. I was well trained. And you know, I made a difference in someone's life. And I made a difference in my community. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And so I am very passionate about our tutors.
The Literacy Council is an all-volunteer organization.
Yes,
as we've noted. Where do you get your funding to keep the doors open, as they say?
Oh boy, we really struggle with that. We really don't have any state or federal funding.
Mm-hmm.
It's all from local donations. Mm-hmm. So that's always a struggle for us.
Mm-hmm. What would you describe as the council's greatest challenge? Is it money, or is it something else?
Well, there's two things. Number one is because not being able to read is a shameful thing for people, and so you have to be creative about getting the word out to reach those students. So we're always looking for new opportunities to work with different agencies, churches, local groups to communicate that we're out there and that we have this free, wonderful service for these individuals. So that's paramount. But also there is a struggle with financing because it is a sacrifice. I mean, for me, I haven't earned a penny and I'm putting in 40 to 60 hours a week. And then we have a student coordinator who is very important, and we've had two of them had to resign because of the hardship of not being able to afford to do this work at the level that you need to do to give the services, because we're all about quality, and that depends on follow-up with our tutors. It's collecting volunteer hours, student progress reports. It's very time intensive.
How would you rate your success?
Oh, I'm very excited about what we do because I see the success every day. Oh, I'm very proud of our organization.
I rate Lisa a big success because I know what it was like before she came, and it has made a huge difference. We're very grateful.
I'm very passionate, and because I know it's real, and we do have some ways that you can check out our organization. One is through the Great Nonprofits. It's called Top Rated Great Nonprofits, and they can check us out. We won an award for that, and then also through our website, icanread.org.
Okay, repeat that again for our viewers because they will be interested in contacting
you. It is
you.
icanread.org, and it's all in lowercase letters. But you can learn a lot about us. You can connect with us that way, also through program director at aaclc.org. And you can contact me that way. So we'd love to hear from you. We're always looking for new tutors, volunteers, and always looking for students.
Thank you for viewing our program today, and please join us again on Annapolis Mosaics. If you would like more information about the Annapolis Human Relations Commission, please jot down the information on your screen. You can reach us at 410-263-7998 or by email at hrcommission@annapolis.gov. Or check out our page at the City of Annapolis website at www.annapolis.gov. Click on the icon that says Boards and Commissions, and then scroll down the page to the Human Relations Commission page. And always remember the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "We have flown the air like birds and swum the seas like fishes, but have yet to learn the simple act of walking the earth as brothers and sisters."